occupancy stood at around 91%, and the monthly revenue run rate is also moving up for this category. So overall, it's been a steady quarter. Of course, international business was impacted by the geopolitical headwinds, but overall, per se, it was a steady quarter.
Well, thanks, Mahima. Shwetank Singh, MD and CEO of Chalet Hotels, Johnson right now to talk about the quarter and the outlook ahead. Shwetank, thanks so much for joining in. And frankly, I read two different pieces of numbers as well, Neeraj here. So I was a bit confused as well. So I'd like to hear from you, you yourself, right? How do you judge how did Q1 go for you in light of what would have been a normal quarter and in light of what a quarter like this looks, which is disturbed by geopolitical tensions?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show. No, absolutely. First things first, I think, looking at our consolidated numbers is probably not the best way to look at our business. Last year in the same quarter, we had a near 100% growth showing, and I had called out to say that residential is not our mainstay business. It is a one-off. And the way we book residential business is that it comes in spurts. Our core business is commercial and hospitality. And if you look at those numbers, we have done very well. We have had a 10% growth on our revenue and actually a 15% growth on EBITDA. Our margins have expanded by almost 2.3%. So very good result all around. If we were to look at just our hospitality business, even though the RevPAR grew by about 6.5%, our overall revenue grew by 9%. And more importantly, the margins grew by 11%. We now operate at the cutting edge of the industry in terms of overall EBITDA margins. We are at 46.5% EBITDA margins for the headline business, commercial and hospitality put together. And we have had a 0.9% to 1% growth, percentage point growth on the hospitality business as well. So given what's been happening around the world, I think the results are very good. And it gives us a lot of confidence about what's coming in the future.
Shwetank, so just to get this clarity, you kind of saying that maybe look at the console numbers on an annualized basis because real estate will even out over 4 quarters. On a quarterly basis, it might look different. And on a quarterly basis, look at the hospitality business in standalone because that's the core of your business. Would that be a fair way to look at your numbers every quarter?
Partly, yes. But actually, if you were to look at our business, I would completely ignore the residential business because it's a one-off. It will go away. We are not going to do residential again. Okay. So, so it's just a quarter thing as well, but also the fact that residential is not our business. So I would just focus on the commercial and the hospitality side.
Shwetank, good morning. Tamanna here. And that's a good, very clear kind of an explanation that you've given. Keeping the residential business aside, and perhaps that's what the street is looking at this morning, right? They're looking at your consolidated numbers and they're seeing that downtick coming in from the residential business. Are you seeing the hospitality segment improving from here? Because you talked about this being a good quarter in the context of what is happening geopolitically. Are you seeing that strengthening out quarter on quarter? And the second part of my question is, will there be remnants of the residential business showing on your balance sheet for the rest of this financial year, or we're done and dusted right here?
So unfortunately, you're right. The street has been viewing those numbers. In fact, last year at this time, we almost hit the circuit breaker on our stock because we had shown a 98-100% growth. So, clearly a misrepresentation, or I wouldn't call it misrepresentation, a misinterpretation of facts is how I would put it. With respect to the hospitality business, as you know, Middle East has been blow hot, blow cold. The fragile piece has been tested again and again. We did see first part of this quarter to start healthy with FTAs returning, if not growing, at least returning to what they were pre the war starting. Unfortunately, that seems to go a bit up and down, and actually forecasting the business at this stage is becoming increasingly harder because the situation seems to change every day. Having said that, we have a lot of faith on the domestic side of the business, and the leisure business has been showing very, very good growth. In fact, we have had 19% growth on our leisure business, and that only continues to grow stronger. So we do believe that the domestic side of the business will continue to perform and hold us in good stead. The social scene is absolutely strong as it is for this part of the year and for continuing into the second half of this year. Finally, on the MICE side, the larger group, most of the companies have been a little bit more cautious on committing to larger groups But where we have made up and done very well is that we have managed to capture smaller groups. It has come at a slightly lower rate, but we have increased the volume so much that the overall growth in that segment has been very, very encouraging. So second half of the year and this quarter seems to be strong enough and gives us a lot of hope for what's coming. With respect to the residential business, I just want to once again clarify, there will be some bookings that we will do in quarter 2 and quarter 3 of this year. But once again, I would urge your listeners to completely ignore those numbers. They only help us with the cash flow. They are not helping us with the meat of our business.
Okay, so quarter 2 and quarter 3, you will see some more of bookings coming in. By when? Because you said very clearly, Shwetank, that you are not doing residential as a core business at all. When do you wind this part down entirely?
So actually, there are a total of two towers that are left to be booked, and I call them booked because actually all the flats are sold. So we just have to book two towers of business in our books, which will finish by quarter 2 and quarter 3. After that, we will just have 150,000 square foot, which is a very small commercial space that will be left. But that will move into our commercial business and get rented out and add about 30 odd crores to the EBITDA. But that only happens in FY28. So from a residential standpoint, we'll just book everything out in the current quarter and the next quarter.
Shwetank, hi, morning, Alex here. So on the margin front, and you mentioned this in our conversation today itself, you said that you're pretty much at the top of the pack, right? I'm just wondering what the levers were that you utilized in the first quarter to get that number, that expansion in margins, and whether this is pretty much the peak. Can you do more than this?
I hope it's not the peak. I certainly hope that we continue to improve. It gets harder as you as you start to edge closer to the 50% mark, no doubt, and especially with the fact that we are diversifying our portfolio and bringing in more leisure into play, and leisure usually comes at a slightly reduced margin. But having said that, the big levers that we read the situation early, we realized that our reliance on the foreign tourist arrivals will get hampered. We looked at our numbers and we realized about 50% of our foreign tourist arrival is coming in through Middle East carriers, and that would have been impacted, and that did get impacted. So some of the quick wins that we had was, that this is the one time that the attrition of the industry comes in very handy. So the natural attrition allowed us not to go back and fill those positions. We got very, very we put in very close measures, especially on the utility side, and then we started getting rid of some of the unwanted costs, like reducing the offerings in the lounge, etc., etc. So we looked at all our cost elements and saw where all we could work it off, and that's clearly sort of helped us with almost a 1% point improvement on EBITDA in the hospitality business, and about a 2.3% on the business overall. So
interesting. All the best for the remainder of FY27, and kudos for the performance in the hospitality and commercial business. Thanks so much for taking the time. All right.
Thank you.